Hi guys, this is the Pulsar PCMK2 TKL HE keyboard that I've been meaning to review for a while now. The reason for this quite late review is that I was in the middle of building my latency rig when this arrived, but then it just got pushed a bit back. But here it is, and it's actually quite good. The board is featuring 8000Hz polling rate, and based on my keyboard inspector tests also an 8000Hz scan rate, which is kind of interesting. See, on the box I have, it still reads up to 6000Hz scan rate, so maybe they changed it in some update, I guess. There is also no further mention about a lower scan rate on their website, which kind of hints it got updated after I got this sample, which is a good thing. For the latency with my solenoid XLAT rig, this board measured around 1.1 milliseconds on average, which is very good for a keyboard at this size. Without rapid trigger, there is also a hidden bottom dead zone of around 0.2 millimeters, and with rapid trigger settings you can pretty much get it to such a low number that this high-tech scale from AliExpress that's cost like €5 doesn't really keep up, but it's less than 0.1 millimeters and more than 0 millimeters. The keyboard is constructed from an aluminium top piece and this plastic bottom part, which has a really nice design in my opinion. On the bottom there are also these adjustable feet that you can set the timing angle between 3.5 degrees, 7 degrees and 10 degrees. This design of having the top piece act as also the switch plate is not everyone's cup of tea, but it does have the benefit of more easy cleaning, since there is not many places your breadcrumbs can hide here. You can just take off the keycaps and brush it and clean it very easily. The keyboard is available in ANSI, ISO and JIS formats, so there is nice coverage there. Also here I have the ISO variant with the big enter and the small shift keys. The keycaps are double shot PBT and they are quite clean when you look them from a distance, but when you get close you notice quite a bit of inconsistencies with the legend thicknesses. The overall thickness of the keycaps is 1.4 millimeters, which is kinda average, but yeah, it's average, it's not bad. The profile is OEM profile, which differs from Cherry being slightly taller and having a more sculpted profile, making them feel more present under your fingers. I'm not the biggest fan of this profile, but it is kind of the most used in the world of pre-built gaming keyboards. We also have quite a wide array of RGB effects on this keyboard, which I do not care for personally, but this bottom light bar piece is actually very nice. You can change the color of it in their web driver and you can get a custom ID badge for it, because this is actually magnetic, and here they made me a JERROR, which is kind of cool. The switches they use are a collaboration with Gateron, and they remind me a lot of the first generation Lecker 45s or the Gateron KS20Us with a different type of rail design. They have a total travel distance of 4.1 millimeters, and the initial force is same as with those switches, so 30 gram force, so it is a very familiar feeling switch. They are quite light to actuate overall. The stem wobble is not really on par with the current best offerings. Luckily this board supports a wide variety of different switches if you ever plan on upgrading, and honestly, the stock switches are not that bad. I'm just very spoiled with these JERRORRs, TTC, King of Magnetics and Gateron Jade Pros that I've been using on my boards quite a bit recently. The stabs are plate mounted, but they are actually very nicely looped and tuned, and I haven't needed to add loop on these at all. They don't rattle, they don't feel mushy, especially the spacebar is very satisfying. Overall, they just feel very smooth and stable. But here is a sound test with a completely stock keyboard. So I talked about the tech specs at the beginning of this video, the latency and whatnot, but the more important thing is how it performs in games. With this, I actually feel very consistent with my super glides in Apex, and it really just performs very nicely. I don't really notice any difference from Wooding or the Venom 60HE. The only gripe I have is with the keycaps, since I don't really enjoy this OEM profile that much and it feels a bit clunky to me, but changing keycaps is an easy fix if I ever want to do so. Getting all the settings dialed in the WebDriver is pretty easy, and the driver allows you to set the actuation in steps of 0.1 millimeters, and the lowest setting is 0.1 millimeters. There is also a very nicely implemented rapid trigger adjustment that also allows you to tweak the bottom dead zone with this bottom protection zone adjustment. As for the SOCD stuff, it is bugged and doesn't work on this current firmware I'm on, and it got fixed on the newest one, I guess, but the newest firmware has a huge issue with the actuation point settings, and it seems to just default the distance to around 1 to 1.2 millimeters, even though I set the actuation to a 0.1 millimeters value. So I hope they release a fixed firmware as soon as possible. Currently, you should just use the second newest firmware that doesn't have a working SOCD implementation. But all in all, I think the WebDriver is done well. The UI is kind of simple, and they even have that auto calibration function on this keyboard. So all in all, the firmware bugs aside, I think the PCMK2 TKL HE is a very nice Hall effect keyboard, and for those who want the normal TKL layout, it is probably the best pre-built option you can get at the moment from Hall effect offerings. That is all for this one. Thanks for watching and see you on the next one. Goodbye.